In this video, I want to show you how to find new big ideas for your direct response ads step by step. And if you don't know what a big idea is, the way that I think about it at least is just an idea that makes your prospects see their problem in a entirely different way. And therefore also letting you be able to position your product as the next obvious solution. I think of big ideas as narratives and reframes. So think of basically just your big ideas as new narratives that you can push onto your prospects or onto your market that shifts their way of thinking. I brought up an example with creatine because I thought it'd be just a really good example to show you. Most people think that creatine is a way to, I guess, gain more ATP in the body and therefore do more reps and therefore can be used as a mechanism, so to speak, to gain more muscle or get more lean and whatever. You can also see here, I just did a run-of-the-mill vanilla Google AI search and it says creatine monohydrate significantly increasing muscle strength, power, and size by boosting ATP energy production. But what if it could also cure depression? If you also do a, again, simple run-of-the-mill Google vanilla search, and again, I'm not saying like a creatine monohydrate solves depression. That's not what I'm trying to say. And if you're here to solve your depression, like, I don't think you should do creatine monohydrate, like, to be fair. But it says, like, yes, research suggests that an insufficient amount of ATP can contribute to the development of depression. So you can see already here that we can create a whole new narrative and a new big idea for a whole new set of people who might have gone through depression in a whole other different market than traditional weight training and like exercising, because we have a new narrative, we have a new big idea. What about cognitive performance? If you do again like another run-of-the-mill AI search, it says that it could also support cognitive function, and this is just like one of many different big ideas, and this is on a macro level for big ideas where you can like go after completely different avatars and different pain points in different markets by reframing the products and the narratives that you're able to push with your specific product. Here you can talk about ED, erectile dysfunction, recovery, mental cognition, anti-aging, energy, being able to like function better as a human. There's so many different big ideas where you can use creatine as the mechanism to get there. More specifically, I just made a few different examples. If you want to pause the video, you can go through these, but all of these use ATP as like the mechanism to getting to that desired outcome, so to speak. So again, here with depression, talking about antidepressants, about how a lot of people don't respond to serotonin, and therefore there needs to be another way, and therefore like ATP is positioned as the obvious solution. Cognitive performance and so on. And really the way that I see it, the more big ideas here, and this is again on a macro level for completely different narratives. With cognitive performance, muscle plateau, and depression, you can also do it more specific on like the micro level with like new narratives. But basically the more different stuff that you can have, the more potential people you can appeal to. The way that I think about big ideas versus avatars versus angles is kind of like big ideas is like the houses, and the house is just the house. It's a narrative, and different avatars, like, so for example, for depression, like you can have that big idea that the reason people are depressed is because they lack ATP, which is supposed to support cognitive brain function, X, Y, and Z. But like you can have a 20-year-old male, you can have a 40-year-old woman, you can have a 70-year-old grandpa, all go into that same house. And the angles are just like the doors for that house, where you have different spins on it, so to speak. So that's how I think about big ideas and avatars and angles. And I'm learning all of this stuff as well, so this might not be 100% accurate, but this is just like how I process it in my brain currently to help me gain perspective on how we attack copy for our clients. As said, the more new ideas that you have, whether that being for new avatars that you can target, or just like different ways that you can use your mechanism to craft new narratives and build new big ideas, the more potential market share you can capture. What I personally see a lot of people do is just try to launch new angles for the same ideas, and you see the same narratives and the same angles and the same story being painted from like 10, 20, 30 different brands for the same avatar, and they're all just talking about the same things and trying to come up with new angles, talking about the same problem instead of reframing that problem and talking about it in a completely new different way. And as said, that's why I wanted to make this video, to show you step by step how you do that, and actually also show you with an example. So what I'll do here is pull up this Google Docs in which we actually have an example of this product called Soothe Naturals. This is a product that was just pulled by one of our strategists who found this product. And what it does essentially is that It's a remedy for what is called acid reflux. Or it's a remedy for heartburn rather. Some people experience this thing called heartburn, and that's actually due to the body doing a acid reflux or acid reflux happening, and that's why they feel this heartburn in their chest, where it feels like their heart is burning because there's too much acid here, and then it gets sent out through the esophagus, and then it creates this like heartburn filled thing. The way that the current narratives is being pushed, and this is just me funnel hacking this brand. I haven't done like extensive amount of research on competitors and whatnot, but what I can see, like just through scrolling through their ads and whatnot and watching their ads, it's all targeted this like problem solution framework in which that, okay, if you have too much acid, and it's very like problem aware, like if you have too much acid, it's completely like this is the solution to that. It's really reactive. And it's like if you have a symptom, which is the burning, it is the heartburn, and that's a really good call out, then this is the natural thing which solves for it. But you can also spin this a complete new different way, which is a new big idea. And this is where you need to pay attention, because this is where I show you what a big idea is. You can build a new big idea. And instead of talking about this is a natural heartburn remedy and how you have too much acid in your body, you can talk about how it's actually due to something else. It's actually due to the mucus layer that's supposed to protect you from this acid that everybody has in their body, which gets degraded by processed food, alcohol, NSAID, stress, and the PPIs, the remedies that you took themselves. This also suppressed the layer in your body which was supposed to protect you from this acid. So the longer you have this acid, the worse that it gets pretty much. Then you do the reform. Like this is what acid reflux actually is. It's the raw tissue making contact with acid that's there, and the more stress that you have, the more food that you eat, and the more of these pills and remedies that you take, the worse this barrier gets. And then you talk about and like just the different ways that you can like the different ways that to natural solve it with their ingredients and whatnot. So like all of the things that's like in the product itself. But the thing is just here, like you talk about a new way. So this is a completely new narrative. Instead of talking about this solves the problem, you talk about this solves the problem that caused the problem, if that makes sense. So this is not your problem. This is the actual problem that you have, and you need to fix this at the root cause to be able to get rid of your heartburn thing. Now you can spin this more different ways, and this is like new narratives on an angle level. So you can talk about here, like this is again just different big ideas, how to like create new narratives, so to speak. So one angle is that your stomach produces acid constantly, which it does. What stops the burning is the acid. This is the same like new big idea that I talked about just before. It's just extrapolated right here. What stops the burning is the thick mucus layer coating your stomach wall. When that wears down, acid hits raw tissue. That's the burn. And whatnot and whatnot and whatnot. Then you can go into the hooks just to make this clear. And this is, by the way, a hook technique I like to use. It's kind of like, why do people who do most things right end up with the worst solution or the worst outcome? So it's why do people who take the most heartburn medication end up with the worst acid reflux? But this whole narrative is just like the more medication that you take and the more processed food and the more alcohol, the worse it will get, because you're not treating the thick mucus layer coating your stomach wall, but you're just trying to like solve the problem when it surfaces. Like so, like up here, you're doing it reactive instead of being proactive, and that's why you'll never get rid of it for good. So that's a new narrative that we're pushing. Another angle that we could do here, which is also kind of like a new big idea, but I wouldn't say it's completely like the new idea, is that we have the mucus, which is the protective layer. And that's like the new idea. But this is just, again, a new way to, I guess, a new big idea on the angle level. Another angle that we could take to this big idea of like the mucus being the protective layer, and that you shouldn't treat the effect, which is the acid, but you should like treat the problem at its root cause, is talking more about how PPIs and acid reflux medication in general. So this is to like solution aware people take this PPI things, which is like these different types of medication to reduce stomach acid production to treat chronic acid reflux, which is called GERD. So this is just a natural remedy, or not a natural remedy, but a remedy that people use to treat the chronic acid reflux. But now you can build, again, a whole new narrative about how this is actually the thing that PPIs, as you can see here, disable the pumps that produce stomach acid. Your body reaches that acid deficit and grow more acid producing cells. After months or years, your stomach produces more acid than when you started. So when you stop, the rebound isn't your original problem returning, it's an upgraded. I wrote this with cloth, that's why it seems so AI generated. But basically, if you start taking this medication, it will just grow worse and worse and worse because it once stops it, and that's a sign for your body to produce more. So now you're in a more fucked situation than when you started. So this is again a new narrative that will, it's kind of like fear mongering to some degree. I wouldn't say it's the exact same thing, but again, it's a complete like new narrative that we're pushing. And you can see again some hooks here just for you to better understand the concept that I'm trying to kind of put into the world here. Why do people who eat the most antacids have the most severe acid reflux? Why do the countries that sell the most heartburn medication also have the highest rate of heartburn? So on and so on. There might also be another way that you can spin this and like building a new narrative here. Again, we're talking about the gut wall with the mucus layers, but that emulsifiers specifically in processed food are designed to break down the fatty and water-based substances in your gut. Therefore, this layer that you have in your stomach, it thins, and acid are able to reach your stomach, and then you have this whole shebang of all of these different problems, which shows as GERD, acid reflux, or heartburn. Books here could be like, why did antacids not exist before 1950, but is now a $7 billion industry? So this is like unaware top of funnel hooks. Why does the same coffee that destroys some people's stomachs cause zero issues for others? Again, also super unaware. You can take this like a billion different ways, but we just spin it here. So this is just, again, another way of doing new narratives on like an angle level. You can also, and this is super exciting, you can also take this much more macro. So remember how we talked about the creatine, how we can use that for depression and how we can use that for cognitive performance. They could also do that here. Like this product right here, it's just a basic supplement. Like it has magnesium, vitamin, what does it have? Like slippery elm bark, arrowroot, it also have marshmallow, whole apple, papaya, green banana. Like so many products would have this. So what if we just took the same product and talked about the immune system? Like a lot of people are feeling fatigued, a lot of people are feeling X, Y, and Z. And again, if you do this strategy, you probably, and I wouldn't recommend it to a lot of people, this is just like thinking through different narratives and different big ideas and how many different ways you can spin one product. Because if you do this, you probably, like your whole funnel needs to be congruent, which most times also would be your socials, but your pre-landers and your landers and your copy and the ads themselves, they need to be congruent, obviously. This is just to like extrapolate the point. But you can talk about how your immune system isn't weak. But again, the gut lining, so we talked about the mucus layer before, that's what's broken. That's what's causing the effects in your system. You can talk about how 70% of the immune system lives in the gut, and all the serotonin production, all of that stuff lives in the gut. And that like when the seal breaks from bacterial fragments called LPS, and LPS is in this way, I don't even know what to call it. It's not like a mechanism, but it's just like what's happened factually in the product or like in the body. This thing called LPS bacteria. So you can see here what we wrote in the GMP is that 70% of the immune system lives in the gut. Again, we talk about the mucus and whatnot, and like all the serotonin production happens in the gut. But what if the seal breaks? So this break, like this mucus layer break that we also talked about before, when that seal breaks, something like called LSP slips in through your body and your bloodstream, and your immune system has never encountered this before, and therefore it has like boom problem. If you just like do again a simple Google search, it tried to explain LPS bacteria to me, and I was just like, fuck this. Explain it to me like I have ADHD and sub 80 IQ, and then it told me like these are just broken pieces, and if your body, and this is how you need to write copy to your audience, by the way, because it needs to be very simple to understand. Basically, if you have a small amount, your body gets inflamed, but if you have a lot of it, this can cause high fever, makes you very sick, and can cause your body to shut down. So it's just like a bacteria or whatnot. It's called a stinky suit of armor, it says. It will break down this mucus layer, and then this will slip into your body, and it causes all different amounts of problems. So again, you can use the UMS of slippery elm and marshmallow root, which will rebuild this mucus layer, and you can explain this very visually in a video ad, by the way, and then talk about how L-glutamine also fuels the cell that to maintain it, yada yada yada. And now you can do different angles. So you can say, why do people who take immune supplements every day like still get sick every winter? You can talk about why did chronic inflammation become an epidemic, the exact same decade ultra-processed food took over. Or you can talk about why do people with gut problems almost have immune problems, and why does nobody connect the two. These are all made with AI, by the way, so don't judge me for the bad copy, but it's just to show the point, like you can spin this a lot of different ways. Another one would be with skin problems. So you can talk again about how the leaky gut, that's what it's referred to normally in cold traffic, like having a leaky gut. That's what the audience is most, that's also why I didn't write it, because I wanted to kind of come up with something new. But again, you can talk about when the gut lining is compromised, it becomes permeable, and you can have inflammatory particles that should have stayed in the digestive tract pass through the damaged wall into the bloodstream. So this is again talking about the LPS. This is just written differently, but that will show up in some people as acne, as rosacea, as eczema, because they like, and then it continues. The person with chronic skin issues who also has bloating, food sensitivities, or digestive discomfort isn't dealing with two separate problems. It's the same problem. So if you're facing more than just like eczema or acne, but you also have bloating, then people start piecing things together and they start to think about, oh, okay, it might be due to something else. And then that's when, again, you can kind of position your product as the solution to that. So that's a whole new narrative. A complete new narrative would be anxiety, like how most people treat anxiety as a brain problem, but that research suggests that it might be a gut wall problem showing up in the brain. Again, talking about like when the gut lining is damaged, LPS breaks through the bloodstream, cross the blood-brain barrier, and trigger neuroinflammation, directly disrupting the brain regions that regulate mood and anxiety. At the same time that 90% of serotonin is produced in the gut and not the brain, which means that if you have a damaged lining in your body or in your gut, that disrupts the production of serotonin at the source. And then talk about how studies show people with compromised gut lining have measurably high anxiety scores. It's not two separate problems, it's the same wall falling in two places. We have the UMS here again with slippery elm and marshmallow root, which is the solvent for this, so to speak, and then just some angles and some hooks to kind of bring this home. But you can see how we can make a new narrative around anxiety. We can make a new like narrative around skin problems and immune system, and you can take this 1,000 different ways. But you can also do it more macro, talking about the same talking about the same heartburn, but just reframing the problem. I think this is the best one example to show you like how you actually make a new big idea for your product, which is just reframing it. Example here, it was before reactive, and now we're solving at the root cause, and we're talking about how those things were not the same problem. If you wanted to have a new big idea, it would be like thinking of immune system and like that macro ecosystem. So what are people in immune system like pushing, so to speak, or people targeting people with like weak health, like chronic inflammation, frequent illnesses, slow recovery, IBS and whatnot? What are they targeting? What are they talking about as a solution? Is it a specific supplement? Is it a specific X, Y, and Z? Then you reframe all of the buckets of problem that people have there into something else. I think if I had to think about something like immune system, one narrative could be that if you have, let's say, slow recovery, then you'd need ATP from creatine. Let's say that's the example. Let's say that that's just the current narrative. The new narrative that you would push would then be like talking about the LPS, talking about how people can rebuild this mucus barrier in their gut, which will solve that problem by providing them with slippery elm and marshmallow root. You have to think about the category itself and then how you fit in as a new narrative in that category. And that was like the example of here with the acid reflux and with the new big idea here. If you want to do this step by step, I'll show you very easily what I did for this example. That's why I built the example, so I could show you step by step what I did basically. And this is like dummy proof. You just do deep research on Claude. So I used the following prompt. This is my product, and then I inserted it. I want you to do a deep analysis about it, and then pull Reddit, YouTube, Facebook forums, etc. and it pulled all of these different things to give me an idea. Let me see if I can find it here. You can see it just did proper research. Then it came to core insight, biggest creative opportunity, emotional lead, all these different things, which I didn't think too much of because I just wanted new ideas. So I just asked it, after your research, can you please work out what the main big idea is that's being pushed right now? And what other opportunities we have for exploring other vastly different big ideas with huge amounts of TAM. And then guess what? It came to me with the gut lining crisis in that you don't have too much asset. you have a damaged gut. Again, we talk about the gut problem with the inflamed mucus layer and whatnot. Then it also gave me the other one with how processed food was the cause of that. And then it gave me something with the serotonin production. So this is the anxiety angle that I came up with later on after playing some more with Claude. But it's very simple. Like, you just need to do 2 prompts with Claude. You can figure this out yourself too. I just wanted to show you what Big Idea was, like, probably with examples, so you can kind of think on your own. And that's step 2, like immersion mode. And that's just like, in addition to finding big ideas with Claude, you just need to be in the trenches, and you need to know like what speaks to your audience and what like reframes you can do, looking at your Reddit fetch, your customer tickets, zero-party data, comments on your ads, etc., just to like manually immerse yourself so much, so you develop this conscious taste where you just hit, because you understand your audience and your product and the market and the landscape so much that you're able to intuitively see these big ideas and be like, okay, this is a nice reframe that we can do for our audience. Let me run with that. Yeah, that's it for this video. If you liked it and you found this concept useful, share it with one friend that you think could use this, who's also scaling on cold traffic or scaling in DCC, who could use this. And if you want to, you can subscribe and like and all that good stuff. There's some links down below that you can check. Beyond that, happy scaling and take care.